Well, hello, Whitney, and welcome to Confidence Conversations.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. I am so excited to talk to you. I know that you have a wealth of knowledge to share with the confidence community. And being the media mogul and social media extraordinaire that you are, I know that you are the founder and owner of Socially Today, but do you have a humble beginning story?
I do. I always call myself the accidental entrepreneur because I always thought it'd be cool to own my own business, but it was not like a hot button item. Like I guess it didn't seem real to me, or it didn't seem like a realistic thing. So
Mhm.
it wasn't actually something that was on my radar. I kind of saw myself as like climbing the corporate ladder. So
So that's super interesting. I know it takes a lot to go from the corporate world to what you're doing now. What was that period of time like for you and what really made you take that leap?
So I was 25 years old. I actually had just gotten a big promotion to a big fancy corporate hotel. That was my background originally, was working in social media and PR for hotels. So I was working for this big corporate hotel. I thought I had struck it big. My job paid me about double what my previous job had paid me. So I just thought I was making it rain. I had the big fancy title, director of marketing. I had my own office when other people in the office had cubicles. Like I had a door, everything. And I thought I had totally made it. And I would say, quickly within 6 months of that job, I quickly realized that I just had no ability to be creative. And people in the content creation, marketing, public relations, that whole space, like that's who we are, right? We're creative, outgoing people. And I found myself sitting in my office, um, behind a desk by myself from 8 to 5 every single day. Like no wiggle room, no, like I have a dentist appointment, no work from home, nothing. And I honestly just became a little depressed, like, and I wanted to bring all these creative new ideas. And in the corporate world, it just takes so much approval of getting this person to approve it. Then it goes to this person, this. By the time it ping ponged to 20 different people, uh, the opportunity had kind of passed.
Right. And
Um,
it's the bureaucracy of it all. But and I know for a lot of people who work in similar industries or even myself, you find yourself in the corporate world getting to a point where you're like, I feel kind of stuck. Like I have all these things that I want to express and great ideas that I know would be great, but I can't just get them out there. And so at one point in time, like for one reason or another, you finally take the leap. Now, I know that people usually go from when we're telling these stories, right? We go from I was miserable. I took the leap. Things are great. But there's a really meaty period of time in between, right, where we're working and hustling to get to where we want to be, especially if you've taken the leap as an entrepreneur to say, go from a place that's very, very stable to now, all right, I'm going to go from salary to I'm doing it on my own, taking on client work. And that can be very intimidating, especially for people like myself. I can't believe I did it. But how did that look like for you, and how did you get through that period of time?
so here's where the idea sparked, because I was like, I got to do something. Like I can't sit here. And I remember telling my parents, like, is this what being an adult is? Because this is awful. Like
Yeah.
I don't want. No wonder everyone wants to go back to childhood. But here's the one thing I finally figured out. I figured out the one thing that they would listen to me about, and that was social media. And it was because I was young and almost everyone above me was significantly older, and social media was scary and new to them. So that was the one thing that I was actually viewed as an expert on. And they would ask my opinion on that. Other things, sometimes they would be like, no, we've done it this way for 30 years. Like, okay, little girl. But social media was the one thing that they leaned on me and they needed me for. That was where my expertise came in. And so I started this little side hustle that was really just an opportunity to like get my creative outlet out there. I wasn't like trying to start a business. And before long, one person told another person who told another person. And I remember that I was like, you know what? I got to do this. Like, I have to leave this corporate position. And I talked to my family about it. And I respect my parents so much. You know, they're both been in the business world. They, are very good money management people. My dad worked for a bank, so he taught me a lot about money management. And I remember confiding in them, and I was like, hey, listen, I have this idea, and I'm going to leave this corporate job and I'm going to go. And I just remember both of them being like, are you crazy? Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? What are you doing? And that really made me take a step back because I value their opinions so much. Now, am I trying to, I mean, I want my parents to be proud of me and I want to please them, but I haven't been afraid to buck the system in my day. Let's say that.
Mhm.
Um, and just for some reason, I did, that made me take a step back and really rethink it. Um, but this idea just kept eating me, like kept coming up inside of me. And that's when I just finally told them, I was like, listen, I love you guys. I respect what you think, but like I can do this. Like I gotta do this. And I still remember the day that I went in to quit and I went to tell my boss and I was literally pouring sweat and shaking. And I went in and I told her, and she laughed in my face. And, which again made me question myself over and over again. Um, but at that point, I had already done it. So I ripped the band aid off. There was no going back. I had already told her what was happening. So
Right.
I was pushed out of the nest and furiously trying to flap my wings as hard as I could. Um, but and it was really terrifying at first, and the hotel of course wanted me to stay and I couldn't, but they ended up becoming my first client.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I kind of got to leave and take the job with me, but that's just a huge testament of like sometimes you just gotta jump. Like you know how to fly, and
Right.
maybe you don't realize you know how to fly. You know how to fly, but just you got to jump out of the nest. And it's amazing about like what will come back to you or what will come to you if you just put yourself out there, you know?
Mhm. I think one of the really great points that you raised too is the fact that not everyone is going to tell you that your idea is a good one, or even you're not going to feel, supported all the time when you're making this leap or when you're making big life transitions. And I think that it's so important for anyone listening to understand that that doesn't discount from your dream or whatever your goal is. Sometimes you have to find the power and the strength inside of you, and especially if you're like Whitney, where, you know, there's something in you that's just eating away and it won't leave you alone. Maybe that's the universe telling you that you do have a different calling and that that's something that you should pursue. And you don't always have to know the how, just the what. Like, what is it that I want to do? And then, like Whitney said, take your wings and jump and fly.
I always hear people say the quote, like, if the dream is in you, it's for you. There,
Yeah.
if it continues to come back, and I'm an analyzer, so I try to analyze every little thing of like, how do I do this? And maybe I wait 3 more weeks and for the perfect time. No, no. Like at some point, put it out there every day what you want and it will come to you. Like I'm a huge believer in manifestation and and I think confidence kind of is a big role in manifestation of putting it out there and knowing that it can and will happen. It's not enough just to be like, man, I really want a yacht one day, but you're like, no, like that's a realistic thing for me. Like
Yeah.
that or whatever the case may be. Um, but I think, confidence is key in, just knowing that it can and will come to you.
Mhm. I think that one of the key parts about what you said is you don't have to know sort of how all the building blocks fall. You don't know how you're going to get the yacht, but you know that it's for you and you keep making steps day by day to make that happen. So given that, I want to learn a little bit more about manifestation and the role that it plays in your life and even in your career.
Oh, absolutely. I actually spend a few minutes a day, and I know it sounds a little woo-woo, and I've never really been a woo-woo person. But I spend a few minutes a day thinking about not just like tangible things I want, but what a perfect day in my life would be like. And not just, of course, like I'm floating on an island somewhere, but, you know, what does my life look like is the first step, and then what does that make me feel like what's the feeling that you have? And for me, like the feeling that I'm after is the freedom, is the flexibility, and the no rush, like no stress, no rush, when I first started my business, I pushed so hard in this like masculine energy of like, I have to generate more clients because I have to have enough money to pay my bills and to have my car, and I pushed so hard. And I actually really learned with manifestation, like the more you let go, the more it just comes to you.
Right.
And you know my dad always checks in on my finances because again, he's a banker. um,
Mhm.
and he's like, well, do you have this saved up and this in case something happens and you can't work for a month? How do you pay your bills? And da, 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 da. And I just said, Dad, you know what? The less I worry about money, the more it just comes after me.
It's crazy because it's so true. And I know that people listening right now, there's probably a half who are like my woo-woo family and are like, yeah. And then there's the other half that's like the way that I definitely used to be, which is like, what are you talking about? How the heck does that work? It doesn't make any sense. And the way to put it into context is you can't chase something unless it's running from you. So if you're chasing money, guess what that money is doing? It's running away, and you have to work hard to get it. But when you stop chasing, you allow for those opportunities to come to you. You take a step back, and the universe is allowed to take a step forward and put in work for you. So that's kind of the context that I like to put it in for the anti-woo-wooers out there. Hopefully, we'll convert you, but if not, there's a whole lot of good stuff here with Whitney. So I want to know more about how you hold yourself accountable as an entrepreneur, because I know that some of us can get into habits of, oh, I'm the boss, maybe I can push this back, or oh, that's not due now. How do you stay accountable as a boss lady?
Gosh, so actually, every person that I hire on my team, I always tell them, I have this little talk with them about like, because we all work remotely, especially
Right.
in the world of COVID now, we all work remotely. So we have team members in New York City, Savannah, Georgia, Orlando, Florida coming soon, Destin, Florida, Navarre, Florida. So we are spread out.
Yeah.
And I always say there's a scary amount of freedom to this job.
Mhm.
um, Especially me now moving into more of a leadership role over the last few years, and I have my team that's executing a lot of the tasks. I have to, I set like work hours for myself. Even if I'm working from home, I set work hours for myself, to say between this time and this time, I'm available for calls. I'm at my desk working on my tasks. But I think the biggest thing that has helped hold me accountable is just my task list, to be honest. I get so lost in emails. Emails are the devil, okay? Emails generate more emails, which generate more
Mhm.
emails, which it's
You have an email about the email.
it's a hamster wheel. So the best thing I ever did, I read The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. It's about maximizing your time and just working effectively and or efficiently. He said, like put 3 to 5, max 5 must do's on your list. And when you sit down at your computer in the morning, you don't open your email. The first thing you do is just start crushing those 1 through 5 things before you ever even touch your email, or set a timer. If these 5 things are a lot, scale down to 3 or something. Set a timer for an hour or two and say, I am tasking for these 2 hours before I ever touch my email. And then after that, when the buzzer goes off, I do check my email and I give myself a 20-minute period to go through emails and like, okay, what's a hot button, hot button, hot button. And then, after that 20 minutes, it's back to tasking. And I'm telling you, ever since I did that, it changed my life, holding me accountable for the things I need to get done. Because for me, it's been very easy when my team starts needing something, I put my task aside. I'm like, no, 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 my team needs me. And I
Right.
jump to help them because I know that, they're working around the clock. So I need to keep them efficient. But at the same time, trying to not push my tasks aside. So I think a big accountability thing for me has been, you know, scale back on everything else. Get your 3 things you need to get done that day and stay away from your email or your social media or whatever your personal little thing is that consistently pecks at your time. Stay away from it.
Yeah, it's a really good tip because I know when I open my email in the morning, sometimes I get so overwhelmed with all of the things that are in there. And like there are tasks in your email, there's updates, there's just so much information coming at you that it's good to have a moment of solitude to focus. Um, Outside of that routine, which is super helpful, are there any other daily routines that you have to kind of keep you grounded?
Oh, for sure. So, kind of what I was talking about earlier with the manifestation. The moment I get up, I brew coffee because that's a necessity. But I sit at my desk or on the couch or something, and I spend 5 minutes meditating. And that transcendental meditation is recently what I've been looking into because I'm not good at thinking about nothing. So transcendental meditation is all about like picking a mantra and you say the mantra over and over again. And when ideas of like, oh my gosh, I have a meeting at 9 and then 10 and then 11:30, when those start creeping in, you come back to that mantra and you just consistently think through the mantra. Um, over and over again. And so for me, 5 minutes has been where I'm at right now. I'm pushing for 10.
Yeah.
Then I have a daily devotional. It's a very short devotional that I read every day from my Jesus Calling book, and I spend some time in prayer. And then I do a few minutes of manifestation of closing my eyes and like, what does my perfect day look like, or how do I feel? And the next step of manifestation is like realizing that so much of that is already in your life.
Yeah.
And then having gratitude. So, and journaling as much as I can. I always jot down my 3 gratitudes. So
That's awesome. The attitude of gratitude definitely keeps you in the spirit to keep going because you realize everything that you have is really everything that you need. So it's a really awesome practice to have. Now, I know that being a boss lady as well as an entrepreneur in the PR landscape, you know all about how to stay cool, calm, and collected in front of the camera or while you're in the spotlight. And I know that a lot of the entrepreneurs or a lot of the women that are listening are entrepreneurs. So can you give them some advice on this?
oh yes. So this also speaks to confidence. About 4 years ago. So again, I'm a PR person. I'm used to being behind the scenes of when my client is going to be making a speech, I help write the speech and refine the speech. Or, when there's a situation like we communicate on behalf of the business, right? But it's not always me on camera. But 4 years ago, I had a dear friend locally reach out to me and said, hey, I want to start this media company. It's going to be kind of like a BuzzFeed. It's called Get the Coast. But it's going to be kind of like a local BuzzFeed, and we want to start a weekly pop culture show about things going on in the area, new businesses, events coming up, that kind of thing. And he's like, I want you to be the host of it. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. Like, I don't like the way my voice sounds on camera. I don't like, the camera adds 10 pounds. I came up with all these reasons of why I shouldn't do this. But this guy talked me into it. So we go and we film the first episode and he sends it to me. And I remember I couldn't even click on the link. I was literally sick to my stomach thinking about people, about putting this out there and people laughing at us and being like, oh, that's cute. They tried to start like a little TV show or something.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
cute. So I didn't watch the episode. I was just like, you know what? Just go with it. Just go with it. So
Mhm.
4 years later, actually, in June, it'll be 4 years that we've been doing the show. In the first year, we had 1 million views, something like that, crazy. And it's really just a local show for our 2 county area. We had 1 million views. We won 2 statewide awards for the show. And it's become one of my favorite. Again, this is like totally side from the PR and social media business, but it's one of my favorite little things to engage in. And now people ask me to be on camera all the time. Will you be the spokesperson for this and for that? And it's so crazy to me that I almost didn't even give myself a chance at this whole thing, because of all these little stories I was telling myself about
Yeah.
my voice and about my weight and about, you know, all of the above, about why I shouldn't be on camera. So I think what I would say to anyone listening out there is like, give yourself a chance to be good at something. You know, I could have missed out on so many opportunities if I was getting in my own way, you know? Get out of your own way and give yourself a chance to be good at something.
I love that. And I think that we do often get in our own way. I have similar stories as well, and I'm just like, just put it out. I don't want to see it. Just get it out there, and then I can look at it. But if I look at it, I'm gonna come up with 1,000,001 reasons why we can't go forward with the idea. So if anyone who is holding themselves back because of reasons similar to Whitney or I, the advice here is just to do it. Stop getting in your own way and just be okay with the outcome. You know, the thing about criticism is people are going to criticize you whether you do something. They're going to criticize you if you want to do something and then don't do it. They're going to criticize you if you, do it and fail, or if you do it and succeed. You know, there may be people out there that say you just did it, you just got lucky. So there's always going to be some sort of backlash or what have you, some commentary from the peanut gallery, but you can't let that, and certainly not yourself, get in your own way, because there's so much of the world out there for you to experience if you just let yourself have that opportunity.
Well, just remember, and someone told me this at my mastermind meeting, and it's really stuck with me. Someone more successful than you will never judge you, okay, or never hate on you. So the hate, if you're receiving hate, the hate that you're receiving is from people that either wish they had the courage to do what you're doing, they wish they had the opportunity to do what you're doing. Whatever the case may be, it's coming from a place of insecurity with them, and you just got to let it go. So honestly, I'm so grateful I've had the opportunity to do the show, and now people call me as like, you're the on camera girl, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's amazing what you'll become
Yeah.
if you allow it. You know, we try to control our destiny, and but it's amazing what you'll become if you just allow it.
Yeah. So have there been other periods of time where you've had to just go with it and take a leap of faith?
Oh my gosh, yes. Hiring people has been a big leap of faith. You know, when I first started my business, I went hard and fast, and I found myself literally working like 12 hours a day all the time. And I actually started to make a little bit of money, and it was addicting to me. And so I was like, yes, yes, yes. The harder I work, the more money I make. But I wasn't ready to release any of that because I was so short sighted of like trying to grasp onto this money. Um, and I finally realized if I hire someone to handle some of these tasks, then I can go get more money and more clients. But it really came from a place of scarcity for me. And I learned that just from, one of my parents was raised very, very poor. I grew up in South Mississippi, which is statistically the poorest part of Mississippi, and Mississippi is the poorest state in the nation, depending on what year you look at. But, for the most part, it's very low income. And I never was hurting for anything my whole life. I didn't grow up poor, but one of my parents did. And it's very much so a fear of, you know, if I let go of this money, like I'm losing money. And I kept looking at it as losing something rather than gaining something. And so that's something I still have to really work on in myself, is the idea of scarcity, of, that I'm spending this, but I'm not getting anything out of it. And constantly always looking for, like, what am I getting out of this before investing in something? So that's been, something I've really had to, and it kind of has been, tenfold, taking a leap and hiring people. Now I have 4 team members, taking a leap and investing in myself. I joined a mastermind that was an ungodly amount of money, but it's already, I can't even go into the specifics, but it's already coming back to me like tenfold. And it just started. So, I think that's always going to be something I have to manage in my own personal mindset, is just this scarcity of, you know, uh, taking a leap and knowing that the investment will come back. Maybe not in the way that I envisioned specifically, but it will come back to me.
Yeah, I think lack mindset that you touched on is so huge, and it manifests itself in so many different ways in our lives, right? Whether it's investing in another employee or even just taking the day off. Like sometimes it's like you need to take the day off, and I know that I have struggled with this, and I've been really good at taking weekends off now. But before, it's like I can't risk taking this time off because there's so much work to be done, or I can't invest here or there because there's so much either opportunity, or if I'm not going to do it, someone else will. And or there's not enough opportunity for all of us. And I think that if you take a step back and really look at how opportunity works, the more opportunities that you create for yourself and others, the more that there is to give. And so it's not like if person X takes on an opportunity, there's less for you. There's actually more. There's more opportunity going into that bucket. And the other thing is just with the idea of like holding on so tight to something that you don't allow other things to flow in. I always use the example of like holding your hand open. And if you close it because you're grasping onto fear or whatever it is that you're holding on to, nothing else can enter because you're holding on to fear. You're holding on to the idea that, I want this so bad, but right now you're not even holding on to that thing. You're holding on to the idea of that thing, and you can't allow that thing or anything else to flow in. So really letting go and letting things kind of come into your life is super, super important.
I was having this conversation actually with my massage therapist,
Yeah.
because she wants to potentially try something new. Um, and she was, and just kind of like a little side hustle, but she was like, I want to do this, but there's already so many people out there like that. There's already so many. And I was like, you know what that tells you, sister? That there's a market for that there are people spending money on that. So there's nothing wrong with you jumping into that field. You just need to differentiate yourself. Yeah, there's 100 of these, photographers or massage therapists or whatever the case may be, but how do you differentiate yourself? So that goes back to like a lack mindset. There's not enough clients out there. And I tell myself there's not enough hours in the day, but there are.
Right.
There are enough hours in the day for what really matters.
Yeah, and one thing that you just said was that you help people kind of realize that they need to differentiate themselves. And that's kind of a part of your work with PR, is helping people with their branding and how they are having a relationship with the public. So how do you do that? And what tips do you have for people who are just getting started with their sort of social presence?
So a few things. I always say, like, I watch a lot of Shark Tank. I don't know if you ever watch Shark Tank, but I
Yeah.
love it. And I feel like I've learned so much from that show, just about business and all different kinds of industries. One thing Mark Cuban says is you got to either be the first, the best, or different. So think to yourself, and everyone that hires me, I always ask them that, no matter what industry is, are you the first hotel on the planet? No. Okay. Are you the best? Of course, we all want to think we're the best. So if you are the best, what makes you the best? Or are you different? How are you different? And really focus on that. And that is your message of, like consistently letting that be at the forefront of your messaging of why you're different. If you're wanting to get your social media presence started for yourself personally, I just say consistency is key. And put your face on there. I know, again, this goes back to confidence, but like people are on there and they're following you because they like you. Okay.
Right.
And we always try to just like post pictures of our food and pretty scenery, but like get your face in there. People want to connect with other people. And yes, the food posts and the beautiful view and the beach posts and all that, those will do well. But at the end of the day, like they're following you to connect with you.
Right.
So I don't be afraid to get your face on video, as we all know, video is crushing it right now on social media. But get your face on there, and also think to yourself, like, what kind of value can I add to someone's life? And maybe then you turn to yourself and you're like, well, I don't know. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I don't really do anything besides raising my children. There's got to be some kind of value. I know you do. If you're a stay-at-home mom, you have a ton of value to talk about. So figure out how you can help someone, or what type of experience you can share, because people want real. And the beautiful thing is now for social media, and this makes our life a lot easier, is people are done with like overly photoshopped stuff. Look at our world now. Like reality TV is taken over. There's basically, scripted shows are becoming fewer and fewer, and these reality shows and are all over the map because people want real. So, get vulnerable and get real on there, and don't be afraid to show yourself without makeup. It's going to be okay. People
Yeah.
can see you. So consistency, be real, and decide what value you can bring, or what you're knowledgeable or an expert on, and make that your brand.
And I think to your point of being real, it's so true. And I think that a lot of times we get caught up in, oh, I'm not this enough, whether you think you're not pretty enough, you don't sound good, your hair is not long enough, you look bloated today, whatever it is. Or sometimes it's your past that's holding you back, or something, whatever the insecurity is. But if you take a step back and think about why you like certain influencers or celebrities or politicians, it's because you can identify with them in some way. And so being able to be that for someone, that is a part of what's going to make your audience gravitate towards you. And that's going to make your social media presence even that much more prevalent. And people are going to want to come to you because you are real, because you are honest, because they can resonate with your story. And so I think that being real, being transparent is important. And also, there's no one else out there doing things like you, but there are people who have similar stories, and they want to know that it's okay to share their story. So if you can be the person to do that and sort of kick off that domino effect, that's awesome. And I think it takes a crap ton of confidence to get there. So Whitney, I want to know, what does confidence mean to you?
Confidence to me means pushing forward when it feels scary. When confidence means when you hear those negative things in your head, beginning to recognize that that's just your ego trying to scare you. All of our egos are trying to protect us all the time. So when you are really growing into confidence, I feel like you will learn, when you hear those voices, to tell them to shut up, and you'll know how to just push forward in spite of all those voices in your head. that sounds kind of crazy. It's not crazy. You know, our inner self-talk is a very, very important thing. So identifying when it's your ego and being like, no ego, I'm doing this.
Mhm.
And I've gotten to the point now where, you know, when something feels really scary to me, or like my heart starts to race about it, okay, joining the mastermind. Like I never even thought I would get accepted. I got accepted. And so my heart was racing. I found out how much it cost. My heart was racing even more. And then I pressed go, and it actually wasn't scary anymore. I was like,
Right.
I did it. I did it. And so now I've gotten to where when I identify that feeling, that's when I get excited and I'm like, oh my God, this must be good. This
Right? You never are afraid to take leaps that aren't big. It's the ones that you do have a high risk, high reward that's so invaluable. So feeling that feeling may be telling you something. And going back to the voices in our heads, that ego, that self-talk, oh my goodness, it can be pervasive sometimes, especially depending on the environment you've grown up in or the people that you have around you. I would say it's definitely important to surround yourself with positive people. But even in the absence of that, or even when you have positive people around and you still have that negative self talk, being able to identify it, like you said, Whitney, is so important because it really is just an internal defense mechanism, if not just I can't think of the word. It's not hypnosis, but it's like we've been so ingrained to think these negative things because that's what the world perpetuates. It's the lack mindset, it's the negativity, it's the let's talk about people. You're so ingrained to think like that that we don't think the what ifs and the positive side of it. But if you really thought about the opposite end of whatever that negative self-talk is, what are you finding? It's probably a world of opportunity. It's not something that's so terrible after all. And oftentimes the things you're telling yourselves are lies anyway. You're not good enough. You're not that different. Who am I to do X, Y, and Z? You're you, and that's great. So go do it.
Oh my gosh, you nailed it with the what if thing. I legitimately thought about getting what if tattooed on my wrist because I was having a talk with one of my closest girlfriends and I was worried about something and I was just what ifing all over her. Like, well, what if this doesn't work out? And what if this is, and then what if I have to start all over? And what if blah, 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 blah. And she just like cut me off and she's like, Whitney, stop. Like, you need to redirect. Like,
Right.
you're saying, what if bad? What if negative? What if this is the best thing that ever happened to you? What if this is the moment that literally like changes everything and it leads you down a new path? What if this is exactly what you're meant to have? This is your destiny and you're stepping into it. So every time you say what if to yourself, if there's something negative on the other end of that sentence,
Yeah.
you need to reroute mentally and be like, well, what if this mastermind literally triples my income? What if this mastermind connects me with friends that I'll have for life? What if this changes the game? So I know you guys, anybody listening out there, we all what if all over ourselves. So that's my next goal. I don't know when I'll actually do it, but getting what if. So every time I look at that of like, what if
Yeah.
today is the day that I score a brand new client? What if today is the day that I reach this goal? Or, what ifing in a positive way?
Yeah. And we have to do it. So Whitney, what if someone wants to work with you? How do they get in contact? What's your social? Where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram. My username is the Whitney Lee, Whitney Lee. You can also check out the agency if you'd like. Socially PR and Media Co. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, pretty much everywhere. Our website is besociallee.com. So besociallee.com. So yeah, I mean, I welcome everybody. Send me a DM on Instagram. I love connecting. And just learning how, I can serve you guys.
Yeah, well, this was fantastic. Thank you for joining us for Confidence Conversations.
Thank you so